Hello friends, welcome to the part 1 of this tutorial. In this video, I'm going to install all the requirement development tools to build our online e-commerce application. So let's get it started. Before I start, I want to show you something. Whatever I'm going to discuss today, you'll be able to find everything in my GitHub repository. And as you can see, this is the future state, that means the end state of our application. Um, and what I am going to discuss in this video tutorial, you will be able to find in part 1. So all you need to do, go to the branch and part 1, and you will find all the necessary steps what we are going to discuss today. And by end of this video, I'm going to share this video link to the description of this video. First thing first, you will need a very good quality code editor. Again, it's just a matter of choice. You can use Atom, Sublime. My preference is I always use Visual Studio Code because I can open a lot of command prompt windows inside this one, and it has a very excellent tooling support for all the development tools I use, like for example Node or Angular or React or even Python. So that's why I like about this tool. I find everything all I need in one tool, so I like Visual Studio Code. But again, totally up to you. Second thing you will need is the Node.js. So let's head out to nodejs.org. In case if you know what Node.js is, it's a JavaScript runtime engine. Again, you can download any of these two. 8.11.4 as of today is a long-term support, or you can use the most current version. Totally up to you. And again, it doesn't matter if you're on a Windows machine or Linux machine. All you need, suppose I'm using Mac here right now. So let's head out to the download installer, and it's very simple. Basically the installations is almost the same for Linux, Mac, or Windows machine. So let's continue. Agree. Okay. By the way, you can change the installation location, but I'm going to just accept the default. I already have a node installed, but in case just to because it's a code along session, I'm going to install everything um, you know everything again. It doesn't hurt if you install it again. Okay, hopefully it shouldn't take that long. Perfect. So it is done now. As you can see that this is already, this is appended the path into your path here. Same thing in your Windows machine. You can download the binaries if you need. All you need to do, include that path to your system environment variable. But otherwise, the steps are almost the same. Next thing I want you to do, go to the Visual Studio Code, and I want you to type node-v. What this command is going to do is going to return you what kind of node version you are going to use. So as you can see, I'm using 10.9.0, and let's see, I hope that was the latest one. So 10.9.0 is the most current version as of now. Second thing, I want to tell you what NPM is. NPM is a node package manager. You do not need a separate installation nowadays. NPM is bundled with node. So but again, it's a good practice, always good practice to check what version of NPM you have. So npm-v will tell you that what version of NPM you need. Third thing, that's all actually you need for your node environment. But because I'm going to use Angular 6, so next thing I will install is npm install -g at Angular /CLI. So let me hit enter. What I'm doing here, I'm installing the Angular CLI version. That's a command line interface version, and it's a actually it wasn't used to be required, but starting version 6 is kind of a it must have a tool if you are working on Angular. And while it's doing the installation, I want to show you how quickly how you can find very good information about Angular CLI. So just go to the your browser and search for Angular CLI. You go to cli.angular.io, and it will take you to their website. Unfortunately, I don't find their website very useful here. But it takes you to the GitHub repository, and there you will find whatever you need to know about CLI. You can find everything here. See, so that's how you install your CLI. So let's keep an eye on this one. Okay, it's giving me error. and it's pretty clear because I'm in a Mac machine and I'm installing globally. So anything you install global, so let me just first hit the command and then we can talk about it. So npm install -g at Angular/CLI. So sorry for the typo. If you're on a Mac machine and anything, if you want to install global, you have to include the sudo followed by your password, of course. Now it should install that Angular CLI. Beautiful. So while it's installing, next thing I want to tell you, this is very helpful GitHub repository. Whatever you need to know about Angular CLI, you're going to find every information out there. Next thing, obviously, I'm going to do ng new project. I'm going to cd into that project and do a ng serve. But an ng serve will open a local host 4200 here. But again, as we go along, I'll show you a couple of new tricks which you can use. So for example, instead of doing the ng serve, you can include the host name, and you can even change the port number. And why would you want to do that? So for example, you are running in your home, you are in your network, you have more than 2 computers. So how do you run app on one computer and access the app from the other computer? I'll show you how quickly you can do that. That's very easy to do that. All you need to do ng serve --host, and you say 0.0.0 and followed by the port number and whatever port number you can give. So the reason I like to do that, suppose you have an Android phone or Apple phone. If you want to quickly test it out, like how your website looks like on that Android phone, you can quickly do that. Okay. So again, okay. So as you can see, my Angular CLI installation is complete. Next thing I'm going to do, let me clear this CLS. Oops, clear. Okay. Now, next thing you have to do, quickly check your ng version. So ng-v, it will give you what kind of Angular CLI version you have installed on your machine. So ng-v, okay. And as you can see, it has all the latest version 6.1.5 installed on my machine. Beautiful. Next thing I have to do, I want to create a brand new project here. So wherever you want to put it, like for example, in my case, I just want to put directly under the documents. You can just do it here. So I'm going to say ng new online store. Okay, so once I hit enter, what it's going to do is going to create a couple of files in this directory, and it's going to create a brand new app in my machine. So it's going to take a little while. So I'm going to pause my recording and I'll resume what this is done. So now as you can see, Angular CLI just finished creating a brand new app in my machine. Next thing I want to do here, cd into this directory. So let me clear this screen again, clear. Okay, and then I'm going to cd into that cd online store. Let's do a quick ls and it will show me all the files it has installed. But at this point, if I do a ng serve, what it's going to do is going to compile all the files and it's going to open a default localhost 4200. It's going to serve my app at the localhost 4200. But before I do that, I highly recommend couple of things, couple of cleanup tasks I would like to do. And let me show you what I mean by cleanup. Let me go to the polyfill.ts. What this polyfill.ts is, suppose you have to make sure that your app is supported into the multiple browsers. So as you can see, it's very it's very advanced. It already supports a lot of web browser. But in case, so for example, you are using the following the ng class support on the SVG elements. I know I'm going to use SVG for sure. So all you need to do, comment this out and install this one. Okay. So let me quickly do that, and then we can. Again, these things are optional, but I want to show you this anyway. Next thing is, suppose if you want to use the browser animations, where did it go? The web animations. But do not get confused with the standard. As you can see, standard animation support in Angular does not require any polyfill, so you don't need to do that. Okay, so you can clearly ignore this one. But I'm just letting you know that in future, if you ever get in, if your code is not compiling or something is not working, if you come across some problem that okay, my code is not working in this browser or Safari or Internet Explorer or Firefox, so make sure you check this out. Okay. Next thing I want to do here is the favicon.ico. So let's go to the index.html. So as you can see, your index.html, it refers to a favicon.ico. What favicon.ico is, this is the icon as you see in your browser. This is your favicon.ico. By default, it's already including your, the standard Angular favicon.ico. Definitely you don't want that. You want your own ICO. So next thing I'm going to do is I already have an ICO. Again, it could be any file you like. So let me quickly copy this over. Go to the source assets. So I'm going to use my favicon.ico. I'm going to copy this here. Perfect. And I'm going to put it inside that assets directory. So next thing is go to your index.html where your favicon.ico is. Make sure that you put assets, you give the appropriate path where you can find the favicon.ico file. Save. That's it. Okay. Now let's go back to the command prompt window. Okay. Now again, if I do the ngserve as I was telling you, it's going to serve your app at the 4200. But this time I want to show you something a very cool trick. So you can do ngserve -- host, and you say 0.0.0.0, and suppose you can say port 4201. Okay, what this command is going to do, so it's going to serve your app, but instead of serving under the local host 4200, this is going to serve it at this address. So now if you are on the same network, you can open your any Android or iOS phone and you can browse through your app at this address. So just wanted to show this cool trick to you. Okay, let's follow to the next step. Next thing I want to show you quickly is the angular.json file. So what this angular.json file is a very important file. It tells you where is going to write your all the so whenever you do the ng build prod, so suppose you're creating a production versions of your app, you can find that inside that DST. So it's going to inside that DST, it will create a folder called online store, and you are going to find everything out there. So if in future if you want to use Cordova or Ionic capacitor, so you can always go back and change it. Again, it's a pretty handy thing. I'm just letting you know that how to change those settings. Next thing is prefix app header. I do not actually like this thing because whenever I create any component, what is going to do is going to, suppose I create a component header, is going to do app-header. I do not like this, so I will get rid of this setting here. Save. That's it. So this is the bare minimum. Now let's go back to my command prompt window, and as you can see, it's compiling. So let's give it a few more seconds. Perfect. As you can see, my Angular code compiled all right. So what you can do, you can find your app right now at this address. So let's go back and browse, open any browser window and go to this address, localhost :/ 4201. Okay. And as you can see, it will open, by default is going to open the Angular boilerplate code, so it's the default code. And as you can, the first thing you will notice is included your Favicon ICO. So make sure to change this. And now as you can see, this is the code, and as we work along, we are going to fix this code. Don't worry about that. So let's go back, and I'm going to kill this command prompt window. Okay. Now next thing, I think in my past video I've shown you what my app is going to look like. So in this app, I'm using Angular Material. So in case if you don't know what Angular Material is another kind of a framework delivered by, so let's go Material, Angular Material. Okay. material.angular.io. Recently, they have included a lot of support for data table, material data tree, things like that. But it's totally up to you. You can think like if you have never worked on Angular material, think it of like a bootstrap. So instead of using bootstrap, you can use the given Angular material framework. But totally up to you. There are a lot of other tools like bootstrap, Angular material, project clarity. These things are available. It's totally up to you, whatever you want to do. But as you know, in my case, as you can see, I'm going to use all these tabs, all these feature tabs and these small little icons. Let me show you this app. And I'm going to use their toolbar, navigation bar, things like that. Everything is built in Angular material. But again, totally optional. If you want to use your bootstrap or any other existing, totally up to you. But I'm going to use Angular material. So let's get started. While I'm here, I quickly want to start, install all of these things here. Okay. So as you can see, all it needs, like you need to install install three different packages: Angular material, CDK, and animations. Actually, there's one more. Let me show you this hammer.js. Okay. So while we go there, okay, let me just quickly do that. Okay. So all you need to do, npm install this thing, and there's one more. I'm not going to do this yet because I know that I have done this several times, so I already know how to do this thing here. So I'm going to ignore step 2, step 3. As you can see, this is hammer.js. Okay, so all I'm going to do, go back to this one, hammer.js. Perfect. And I'm going to install 4 different packages here. Just do npm install -- save and install all these packages. Okay, perfect. Next thing you need is you need to include all the if you are planning to use Angular material icons, you have to take this thing and include in your index.html. Perfect. Again, I will show you what those things are. So let's go to this, open another, say Google material icons. I believe it's material.icon.io, something like it. Here you go. Okay, so basically all once you install these things, basically what it does, all you need to do in your code variable is say mat-icon, and you can include any other SVG icons. These are very, very lightweight icons, so if you want, you can even download it. And as you can see, their repository is pretty it's a very large repository of icons, very cool looking, nice icons. So you can just use those in your app directly. Okay, perfect. So while we are doing that, there's one more thing I want to do that. So let's see if I hope. Okay, this is still installing the 4 different packages for Angular material. While we are doing that, I want to include one more thing. So as you can see, by default, my app, it creates a styles.css file. Okay, so in your styles.css file, this is blank. I'm going to include all my styles CSS. Everything is out there, but I want to show you. As you can see, my Angular material is already finished installation. So go to the node modules, add Angular material, and here you will find something called Prebuilt Themes. So by default, as you can see, it gives you 4 different themes here. So all you need to do, pick out anything. Suppose I like this in indigo pink.css. So all you need to do, copy this command and include this into your styles.css file. That's it. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Save. That's, I think, pretty basic stuff. From the installation perspective, that's all it is required for if you are planning to use Angular material. Okay. Now I'm not done yet, because I know that that my app is going to right now it's very, very basic stuff, but I know my app is going to use a couple of things, like there will be an about us page, there will be a footer, there will be a header. So while I'm here, let me quickly create those things here, and let me show you why I prefer to use Angular CLI. Okay, so let me clear my screen again. Okay, So you will see how easy it is while you're using the Angular CLI, how easy it is to create brand new component here. So I'm inside this app. Let me go to the cd into src, okay, ngGC. So actually what it means, ng generate component, and here suppose you want to have everything, so you want to create a new component, it's called header, and you want to place it into the shared directory. So all you need to do, ngGC shared -header. Okay. It's going to take few seconds, but you will notice here cannot find LG module. Okay, the reason it's complaining because I'm inside that src directory, but it's complaining that saying, okay, it's not able to find the app.module. So what is expecting me to go one step into that directory. So I'm inside that app module directory, and I'm going to hit this command again. So as you can see, now it will be able to, as you can see, it created 4 different files here. Okay, see, app, shared header, and all of these four sites here. Okay, now I intentionally did these things here. Okay, the reason is I wanted to show you this error, what exactly it did. And now if I go to app.module.ts file, you will see that what my ng command did, ngGC, that means ng generate component, not only it created those files, but it's also created, it made that entry here. So that's why I like Angular CLI. It's, you don't need to go back and, do all these things. It can automatically, it take care of those things. It's built on the Angular schematics, and that's the best thing about it, that, it's smart enough to figure it out how to add your component to the declaration on your app.module file. Okay, let's go back to the command prompt window one more time. I want to quickly show you one more thing here. Okay, so suppose if you you want to create this this component here, okay, but here if you want to, instead of doing it to the shared folder, I'm just want to show you a couple of tricks here. So if you do ngGC, that means ng generate component, and do generate a component folder, and instead of creating it in its own directory, all you need to do is like flat. So flat means do not create a subfolder like this shader. So inside share, as you can see, it created a folder here. But if you do not want to do that, do not want to do that, you can do the flat. And also there's one more little trick. As you can see, it also created a file .spec.ts. What this file is actually is used mainly for testing purpose. In case if you do not like that, so all you need to do here is spec equals to false. That's it. So it will create a new folder here. Let me run this command, and it will, let's see what it does. So as you can see, this time it will create the folder.component, but instead of creating the 4 different files, it's going to create only 3 files. Okay, see. But again, it's a smart enough to figure it out, and it added into the app.module directory directly to the app.module declaration array. Wonderful. So let me refresh this. For some reason it's not refreshing automatically, but as you can see, shared. So instead of putting it inside the shared, what it did, it created those 3 files directly inside that app. Obviously I didn't want it to do that, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete these files here, move to trash, go back to my app.module. Okay, obviously this is, I'm going to clean this out. So unfortunately there is no automated way of cleaning this out. Okay, so but I'm going to do this ngGC folder, but I'm going to create this inside shared. Oops. Folder, and I'm going to get rid of this flat option, but I'm going to keep spec equals to false because I do not want a spec file here. Wonderful. So this is done. Next thing I want to do here, I also want to create an About Us page. So let's go back, and this time, and About Us actually is a static page. About Us. Beautiful. Great. So as you can see inside my shared folder, I have three different files, About Us folder, and let me quickly show you what's inside that about.html. So right now all it says About Us works. Okay. Okay. Now two more things I want to, before I complete this session, there are two more things I want to do. One thing is ng g. I want to create a routing module. So let me show you what that is. Routing. And what I want to do, I want to create this app-routing directly into this. Okay, so I'm going to use the flat, and next thing I'm going to say module equals to app. Okay, and I'll show you that what it means. Beautiful. Now as you can see, my app routing module, I created a new app routing module file here. It's a brand new file, and as you can see, it included app routing module entry here. So let me quickly work through on this app routing module file here. Okay. So first thing I will need here, let me import router module and routes from Angular router. Next thing is I'm going to type a constant routes, which is of type routes, and here let me put a path which is a blank, and it's going to redirect to About Us, and patch match equals to full. Second thing is let me do star star and put an About Us here, and then let me include an About Us component. Right now it doesn't know where the About Us component is, so let me import that About Us component. So basically what it's going to do, so I'm including an About Us component here, so anytime if I type a localhost, if I go back to my URL here and say where did it go, so localhost 4200 / About Us, so is going to go to my app routing module here, file here is going to fetch this component. That basically all it is doing. What this is going to do here, suppose there is it's at the home page, it provides nothing, so by default my first opening page is going to be About Us page, or in case third option what it's doing, suppose I provide some junk here which doesn't even exist, in that case what it's going to do is going to redirect to that About Us. So that's exactly, that's what it's going to do. Next thing is I have to include an export statement here. I'm going to export the router module. There's one last thing I have to do. Inside the imports statement, I need to create this router modules, and I'm going to declare that for routes and pass this constant routes to this one. I think that's pretty much it. That looks good now. So that's all you need to do on the app routing. Okay guys, so my app routing module is done. Now one last thing I want to do, because as I know I'm going to use Angular material into this app. So one last thing I want to do, I'm going to reuse this command, but instead of app routing, I want to call it a, what I'm doing here, I am creating a custom material module. And the reason I'm doing that, because I know there's a lot of components I'm going to use. So let me just call it a custom material flat. That's it. So I know that I'm going to use like a lot of custom materials here. Okay, so basically, let me open this file here. So as you can see, I can include all my Angular material icons inside this module instead of declaring those in app.module. And the reason I want to do that, because there are so many material modules here. I don't want to make it a lot of clutter here, and it's a good idea to keep all your material module here. Let me show you a sample. Okay. So for example, I already have one sample. Look at this. I always use mat button, checkbox, dialog, tabs, progress spinner, menu, icon. So imagine copy pasting, writing all of these things in your app.module. It's not a very good idea. So that's the reason I like to include all of these things into my main file here. Again, I'm just doing a copy paste here. You can do the same thing. You will be able to copy it from my GitHub repo. But again, if you want to type it, it's a lot of typing, so I would avoid doing that. Let me show you. Okay, and again, basically, you can argue that if you're not going to use all of this thing, you don't need that, which is totally fine with me. If you're not going to use that, just don't do it at all. But because I know that I'm going to use all of these things, and it's a very lightweight. Trust me, it doesn't hurt your application if you're including all of the Angular material items here. It's like hardly it makes 1 KB difference in your Angular material. So I highly recommend you adding as much as you want. So again, you will be able to copy paste this thing from my GitHub repo. But as you can see, it looks good. All I'm going to do, save. And now you can use Angular. That's all is required from the Angular material perspective. It may look like a lot, but once you get used to it, it's very, very easy. Next thing is, now you don't need to worry about material, installing anything from the Angular material perspective. All you need to do, go back and write anything you want, any Angular material code you like, you want to include that. That's it. That's pretty much it. So at this point, if I do an ng serve, all it's going to do, my app will be ready and it will be serving at localhost. Instead of 4200, it will be serving at localhost 4200. Basically, that's pretty much it. That's all what is required to set up Angular material. I know it's a very long session, but in the next session it's going to be very, very fast. All it takes, it takes a while to set up your environment correctly, but once your development environment is set up, trust me, it goes very, very fast. So follow along this tutorial, and if you have any issues, please again go back to my GitHub repo for any installation instruction. And if you get into trouble, just feel free to open an issue here, and I'll be happy to answer it for you. So stay tuned and subscribe to this playlist. I'll be uploading the next part very, very